All right, welcome back to the Dirt Beers podcast. This is episode 23. This episode we got Justin Peck on, but before we get into Justin, we got a couple housekeeping things we got to take care of, Jonathan.
Yep, since 2016, Dig Race Products has had a sole focus on the Northeast Dirt modified shocks and suspension tuning. Located centrally in New York, Dig is the industry leader in at-track shock and setup support. This hands-on, at-the-track approach is what leads the design and development in delivering the highest quality shock absorbers to the dirt oval track market. Take your program to the next level. Feel the difference on Dig. Visit digraceproducts.com for more information. We appreciate Dig Race Products being on board the show over the last few weeks.
And we're also brought to you by Inland Rigging. Inland Rigging is a machinery, moving, and warehousing company based out of Southern California, offering local, domestic, and international moving services. Whether you have one piece, a complete factory, or a complete warehouse to move, Inland Rigging has you covered. With a deep family history in the business dating back to 1904, Inland Rigging continues the same family values that has made Inland Rigging the right choice for so many years. As I mentioned before, we got Justin Peck on the episode this week. Justin, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So we always like to start out by getting to know the guests a little bit, their background. So, Justin, how old are you and where are you from?
I'm 26 years old. I'm from Monrovia, Indiana. I live in Brownsburg, Indiana now. It's just a little closer to the race shop, so it makes it a little easier. But I'll always be from Monrovia, man. My family still lives there, and that's where I was raised.
So where did the racing journey start? Obviously, you start in Indiana. It's kind of a hotbed for racing as is. But what makes you want to jump behind the wheel, and what was that first race car or race cart, I guess, that you may have got behind the wheel of?
Yeah, so I started racing in quarter midgets. My dad and my uncle both ran quarter midgets, and then went and did go-karts and stuff. And my dad ended up racing pavement late models. But my cousin, actually both of my cousins were racing quarter midgets at the time, and they had just kind of faded out of the quarter midget thing. So they were still one of those sitting in my grandfather's shop, and that's kind of how it all started, man. I ran a car that my cousin had previously ran, and we ended up winning our second race out over at Mini Indy. So it's just it's been a long journey ever since then.
Nice. I also just realized, Jonathan, I skipped over the beer crack. So we're going to do that now.
I know. I was waiting for that.
After we just talked about, I have some weird German beer. I don't even know what it is. Anyways, hey, we got that out of the way. But
you were just trying to dodge having to drink that beer.
It's actually pretty good. I'm not going to lie. For anybody at home, if you want to try that straight out of Germany, it's pretty good. Sponsor us. Anyways, so yeah, growing up, you get into the quarter midget stuff, all that. But once you get out of the go-kart / quarter midget stuff, what's your first big car experience? When's the first time you strap into a full-size car?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know what do you consider a full-size car, because I guess after the quarter midget stuff, I went and ran the 600cc micros, and then did dabbled into Kenyan midget stuff. I did some pavement late model stuff. I'm trying to think. I was like 13, I think, when I did late model stuff, and then I was 14 when I got into a midget. So from 14 on, it's just kind of been the open wheel route. Like I said, my dad was a pavement late model guy, and he kind of wanted me to go that route. He really kind of pushed the issue, and the car that I ended up driving was a buddy of his named Tommy Simpson owned it, and we ran that like JAG CRA All Star stuff. But then, like I said, so then the year after that, going into that winter, I kind of told him, I was like, man, this stuff's boring. I don't want to run this pavement shit, And so we kind of had a little tiff over that. He's like, no, I think this is the route you need to go. I'm like, no, like we're at the point where we're looking at selling our micros. So it's like, well, what do we buy? We're going to sell this race car. What do we buy after that? And I'm like, so eventually I talked him into buying a midget, and now I've just been going the open wheel route.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you just like almost never look back. With the fact that you were able to start your racing career, at least like, kind of get into racing at a younger age, was post-secondary school, like anything post-high school, even on the table? Or were you just full on, I'm committed to racing no matter what life throws at me after high school?
Yeah, I guess me personally, I was committed to the racing stuff, but my mom is a school teacher as well. She's a 5th grade teacher at an elementary school in Mooresville. So she pushed me really hard to go to school and go to college and stuff. And I did. I went to Indiana State University for 1 year, And I was like, this is it. I gave it a year. I did what you wanted me to do, Mom, and I'm going racing. And
Yeah.
luckily it's worked out, because I'm sure if it didn't work out, I would never hear the end of it. But I keep telling myself all the time, I need to go back for one more year just so I can get like my associate's degree or something. But I don't see myself doing that anytime soon.
Yeah. So I want to know, being an Indiana guy, Indiana is such a big place for non-wing sprint car racing. What kind of drove you to get into the wing stuff? Like, where did you ever have some seat time in a non-wing car?
Yeah, so like I said, so we sold that micro, and then my dad bought that midget, and so that was kind of my
Hmm.
entry into the non-wing world, I guess, like
Yeah.
running midgets. And for the most part, we did like powerized stuff, just because I couldn't at 14 USAC. At that time,
Yeah.
USAC's age was 16, right? You had to be
Yeah.
16 to run the USAC stuff. So we went and did the power eye for a couple years, and for the most part, even stuck to that, throughout, even after I was 16. We did dabble in some like Indiana Midget Week stuff and all that, but we truthfully, I'd always looked at going the USAC route. And even at that time, 16, 17, 18 years old, I was like, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to be a midget guy. I started to pick up some rides outside of that. I started driving for Kenny Irwin Kenny Irwin Sr. a little bit, and the midget stuff, and ran for Michael Dutcher and the non-wing stuff a couple times. Was driving for Jerry Burton. Ultimately, when I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go the wing route. I was driving my family's midget a little bit, driving Kenny Irwin Sr.'s midget a little bit, running the Jerry Burton car, like just around some Indiana stuff. And we were racing at Peevely in the midget. I was driving my dad's car, and it was Ironman 55, so they had the wing cars with us. And I remember sitting in the push-off chute, like that little pit lane that goes up, like you got to go up this ramp to turn on the racetrack. And
Yeah. Yeah.
dude, they were freaking ripping, and they were just flying around that place. It's a little bull ring, and they're up on
Yeah.
the fence and doing some really cool shit. And I'm like, I remember my dad and I looking at each other like, that's what we need to be doing. Why are we doing this shit? We need to go that route. So the very next year, man, that winter time came around, and we sold the midget stuff. We had 2 race cars, sold that, and bought 1 sprint car, and just kind of been doing the sprint car stuff ever since, the wing stuff.
So you go on that wing route. Being a guy from Indiana who is chasing the open wheel path, was IndyCar and the Indianapolis 500 ever a temptation or something you even dreamed about?
No, I mean, it was obviously it's something that I hope and dream of, right? But from like a realistic standpoint, it's kind of been a weird journey, honestly, because truthfully, the whole time I was growing up, right, when you're a kid, you think you're going to NASCAR. I mean, that's just how we all think.
Yeah.
And I've kind of came to that realization pretty damn early that I'm not going to NASCAR just based on unless you caught a break, but just based off the funding that was behind me at that time, and kind of the passion that I had. Like, I'd already done the late model thing. I said, damn, I don't even like this,
Yeah.
now what am I going to do? I mean, that's the same thing. I mean, that's not the same thing, but it's a stock, it's a stock car. It's all closed off, and kind of a similar genre of racing is going to NASCAR shit. And there was just kind of that transition of, I'm going to go chase sprint cars. I'm going to go chase the World of Outlaws. And truthfully, the IndyCar thing never really even crossed my mind. I mean, I went and did some karting stuff just because I had a couple friends that owned some karts, and like we just go have play days, basically, like go test and do stuff like that. And I was never all that bad at it. I mean, I could compare lap times to a couple of those buddies I was racing, but it just never was on my radar. The World of Outlaws was my main focus, and I was just kind of going to do whatever it took to get to that route, because in my mind it was like, okay, I'm going to go make a living doing this. I'm going to go make money doing it. And I couldn't justify, at some point when I started getting paid to drive other people's race cars, on the dirt, it was like, well, I can't justify not going and getting paid somewhere else. I'm going to go chase this. And you got to be kind of hungry to do all that stuff. And if you don't really have a passion for it, you're probably not going to put in as much effort as is required to go do that kind of genre racing. So, now I'm like, my brother works for McLaren on the IndyCar side of stuff. He works on Potter Awards car, and he does the pit stops and stuff. So nowadays I'm bugging him, right? I'm like, hey, get in the door. You gotta get the route. But but I never really cared up until just recently.
Yeah. So I want to know, as somebody that's obviously been racing for a long time, what's some stuff that you do when you're not in the seat to keep yourself sharp for when you are in the seat, like to keep your reflexes sharp, keep your mind right? Is there certain things that you like to do?
Yeah, I mean, like the biggest thing is just kind of going back and watching film for me.
Okay.
I think the more time it generally correlates, right? The more time I spend watching races,
Yeah.
the better off I end up running in that short-term period, right? And I think overall it just kind of raises your like racing IQ a little bit, because you're not, at least the way I do it, like I'm not only watching myself, I'm watching what other guys are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really one of the hardest things I think for probably about any driver is like, if you have a bad night and you suck that night, like say you ran 18th and you weren't even in contention to go any further up, the hardest thing to do is go back and watch that race, because you don't want to watch other guys that you're
Yeah.
racing against, be successful and you're sucking. But
Yeah.
it does end up making you better, because then you kind of compare, right? You can see kind of why you sucked, and you're kind of seeing why these other guys ran really good and kind of what their strengths and weaknesses are. And you
Mm-hmm.
can kind of gain a little bit of an edge doing that, at least from a driver standpoint. Maybe you can find something with your race car that needs to be different, just kind of the way things are positioned and attitude is. And so that would probably be my biggest one. And, I think too, it's always good to kind of get your mind off of shit. And I feel like going golfing or like going
Yeah.
fishing, that kind of stuff, like you kind of relaxing, like you can put your phone away. You're not looking at social media. You're not paying, you don't care about racing in that 4 hours that you're out doing it or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely helps. But, outside of that little bit of time, man, it's just racing. And 9 times out of 10, you're with your team, your guys, and you're talking about how to make the car better and what we could do here or what race we're going to go to or our travel schedule. So it makes it freaking tough to ever get away. But I definitely try to have some kind of relaxation.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that being important to build into your race week. You mentioned your guys, and you mentioned your brother who's working on an IndyCar right now. If you were not in the driver's seat and you had to be a team member on a different role in the sprint car world, what would you want to do? Would you want to be a crew chief? Would you want to be a tire guy? What does Justin Peck, the crew guy, look like?
Man, I don't know. I never really looked at it from that route, but nowadays, truthfully, even at the end of the day, I mean, I don't necessarily have the proper knowledge to go be a complete crew chief. I've never necessarily like ran a sprint car team. I mean, my dad and I did it right in a certain capacity,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're racing 30 times a year, with one operation, that's a lot different than taking care of a full-time team that goes on the road and does that kind of deal, right? Or chases a points championship. So it's kind of different in that capacity, but I'd probably end up being a tire guy at the moment. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I could be a car chief. I could be a tire guy. I could not be a crew chief. I mean, with setup stuff, I feel like I could kind of carry my own weight in that aspect. But at the end of the day, I look at it from a driver's point of view. I don't look at it from that side of things. So truthfully, if I wasn't a driver, I'd probably like open a food truck or be a fireman or something like that. I wouldn't even, I probably wouldn't even be in this fast
Yeah.
racing. I'd just be a fan sitting up there drinking beer.
Okay, so let's talk about the fact that you are a driver. What is for you your Monday to Sunday look like while you're out on the road with the High Limit Tour? Is it obviously a lot of traveling in between, but what do those days look like when you're not at the track? And then what do those days look like when you get to a new track and you're getting set up?
Well, it all kind of, I guess, it depends, right? Like if we're, this week, like I'm at home right now, I'm in Brownsburg,
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of nice. So like, yesterday, had to go drop off my trailer up at Alumatech to get a couple things fixed on that, and then, went back down to the shop, talked to the guys. We had a Ford meeting, just kind of go through the motions there, just normal day-to-day shop work, and then come back, man, and just had some TLC, made some dinner, did some laundry, cleaned up the house, that kind of stuff. But,
Mm-hmm.
if we're on the road, it's quite a bit different. I mean, you're traveling everywhere. You're getting into hotels. You're trying to get race cars ready, get the T-shirt trailer cleaned up, get that kind of stuff ready, put in orders, package orders. So, for the most part, it's kind of centered around the T-shirt business for me. Kind of doing a little bit of shop work with the guys, dealing with Ford and Shaver and trying to, kind of keep our engine program on the right track. So that's usually what a day-to-day is for us. And, every now and then, like I say, you try to fit in some golf, and it seems like I never go to sleep anymore. I just stay up and watch Flow Racing, but
Nice. What about when it comes to race day and superstitions? Do you have anything that you have to do a certain way before you get in the race car? Is there a superstition that you have to follow on race day?
no, I'm usually not all that superstitious. I definitely was when I was younger. I had to put the left shoe on first. I had to put the left glove on first, and you
Yeah.
put your left leg in for that kind of stuff. But I could give two fucks less anymore, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Generally I just try to stay in a flow, right? Like when you get
Yeah.
stagnant, that's kind of when stuff starts to go haywire. And especially with rainouts, that's really hard to do. But No, I mean, we get the t-shirt trailer to the track. I pretty much in a routine now. Like my girlfriend Alex and I will take t-shirt trailer to the racetrack at, we get there at 11 o'clock and park, and usually have a little powwow with everybody that's there. Go grab some lunch, come back, bullshit with the guys, kind of get a game plan together on how we're going to attack the night, and go open up t-shirt trailers and start slinging merch, and then come back and try to kick some ass in a race car.
Nice. So this is I don't know if you've ever watched an episode of the show, Justin, but this is our favorite part of the show. It's called our Rip in the Top segment. So basically, I got 4 rapid fire questions for you, and you're just trying to answer them as fast as you can. So our reigning quick time at the moment is still Ava Payton at an 18-second flat to answer all 4 questions.
That's tough. That's going to be tough.
Yeah. So I'll ask you the first question, then as soon as you answer, I'll move on to the next one. Try not to pause in between as much as I can. I know everybody's saying it's me that's getting these numbers all over the place, but
it's always the tower.
Hey, if you can get close, we'll see. But and they're all food and drink related.
Okay.
So if you're ready, we'll get her going.
Yep, let's send it.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Favorite beer or drink?
Miller Lite.
Favorite truck stop, snack, and drink combo?
Smart water and beef jerky. Jack Link's teriyaki.
Top 3 pizza toppings?
Pepperoni, sausage, bacon.
Favorite wing flavor?
Buffalo, lemon pepper.
Oh,
I don't think of my fingers on this one. I'm not going to lie.
That's got to be tight.
21-3.
Oh,
there goes the phone.
You were rolling there for a second.
You were, yeah.
I had to think about it, man. I had to think about that buffalo lemon pepper, man.
Yeah, buffalo lemon pepper. That's a unique one. I like that.
It is unique. I honestly can say I've never had buffalo lemon pepper. I'm going to have to try it.
You got to do it. You got to get, like, the buffalo, like, wet, right? Like, sauce. And then you just, like, the lemon pepper seasoning and just, like, a little sprinkle. It's fucking...
I'm gonna have to try that for sure.
Nice.
That's like Atlanta. That's like come from Atlanta, man. Like the lemon pepper, like buffalo. That's like down south.
Yeah. I mean, 21-3 is still a respectable time. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of 28s.
I want to know how she did that. She must have just been like, yes.
It was, it was quick. It was a lot of just one word. Like the only one she gave more for was the truck stop and snack thing. Like she gave 2 answers for that. But other than that, it was literally she had it right away.
Ugh.
It was crazy.
I feel like it was also one of those things where, like, of all of our guests, it kind of felt like Ava was prepared. Like, she may have listened to an episode.
I feel like
and,
she
like, had the
homework.
answers. Yeah, she had the answers written on her hand, and she just was, like, banging them off, right? So,
but okay, so I want to get into the 2025 season. We got your stats here for the 2025 season so far. You got 27 feature starts, 4 wins, 9 top 5s, 18 top 10s. Take us through the beginning of your season, man. Obviously, new team with Radine Racing. Just talk about that a little bit and how you think you guys have started off.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, like with the first 3 races out, we won. So I was like, yeah, this is perfect. Everything's great, But then, that was 360 stuff down at Volusia, and we dropped the 410 in and just kind of couldn't really make speed. Like I felt like our race car was pretty close, but couldn't really make speed. And then we kind of hit a point where changing things on the race car to try and get faster, and all we did was get slower. So then we're back. Then we go, okay, we're creeping back the other way, and now I feel like our race car itself, handling wise, is really, really close. It's really good about every night. We're really consistent. My guys are really consistent about giving me the same feel every night, every time we hit the racetrack. But kind of just keeping up with Ford and developing these engines, and we kind of went on a little hot streak there not that long ago, and that was the first night that we'd run the new head combination that Ford's come out with, and ended up breaking a crank in that engine at Grandview. So, but all in all, I mean, it's just kind of been gelling, right? Like just trying to get on terms of if we're gonna, we always. Each driver wants to feel something different in a race car. So, like, one guy might, if you're going to miss, like, say you're going to be a little bit off that night, like, you might want to miss being right rear tight. So, when you go in making those adjustments, you're always leaning heavy on this side of the race car. Well, I want my stuff, if we're going to miss, I want to be laid left too hard. Like, I want to have to, drive it in hard and then backpedal and try to catch up with my feet. And So that was something that my guys kind of had to understand about me, right? And we had to go through that little transition of, hey, if we're going to miss, let's miss in this direction. So that's honestly kind of how you get really consistent. And I think that's how a lot of top teams are. You know, they get in a little box and they say, okay, well, we're going to be a little heavy over on one side, or we're going to be a little heavy over on this side. And, you know, truthfully, I feel like our season's gone really well. It's kind of been, you know, hot, cold, kind of got hot again, you know, kind of had a so-so weekend this weekend. But, you know, now I think by mid-season, come crown jewel time, we're going to be, you know, kind of in a box to where we can kind of be hot more rather than cold, or at least when you miss, you know, you're missing. Oh, okay, we ran 7th tonight, and you know that's kind of how you got to approach these championship deals, and that's how you're going to end up winning championships. So, really happy all in all. You know, gelling with all my guys has been pretty easy, and working with Kevin Rudeen's super easy. I mean, he's got to be the best, you know, the best or the easiest car owner I've ever, you know, worked with in that fashion, right? Like just kind of, hey man, you're the best at what you do. Go do your job, and you know, if you need something, call me, and you know, other than that, let it fly. And that's great to hear from a driver. You know, you get to attack the racetrack every single night and go out there and try to put in your best effort to what you think is your best ability, rather than what someone's telling you, you know, on the sidelines. So it's been great gelling with all these guys.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems like, you know, it's kind of hard to talk about like the pressures of a full schedule with the way the rainouts have hit you guys. I don't know how your guys are feeling it. I know obviously you're still traveling. It's not necessarily like, oh, you get to see get a race rain out. Everybody gets to go home. Like a lot of times you're between stops or something like that. But what about that, you know, full-time tour life this year has challenged you, or was there anything you maybe didn't expect about getting back on the road this year and chasing the full-time thing again?
Well, I mean, you kind of touched on it. The rainouts are the hardest part about, you know, especially when you're on the road. Like, just for example, you know, you go to, you know, like the high limit tour started out in Vegas, right? So most of us are not based out of California or Las Vegas or that area. So, you know, to go do that, I mean, that's, you know, 5 weeks on the road to do that whole little trip. You go Vegas, work your way through California, hit Arizona, hit New Mexico, then you go hit, you know, Texas, and then you come home, or Kansas, or whatever the trip is. I mean, that, you know, we rained out a couple shows there, or winded out like we did in New Mexico. Well, what are you going to do? I mean, you know, race car's ready. It's loaded up in a box. I mean, your options are, you got to find stuff to keep yourself occupied. So that's definitely the hardest part, you know, especially like you're racing. Most of the time what ends up happening is you go race somewhere one weekend, and then you have a race on, say, Tuesday for the midweek money series. Then you have a race that next weekend, you know, kind of in a circle, kind of in a loop, you know, you're trying to make a tour out of it. Well, if you rain out that Tuesday, bud, you're sitting in a hotel from Sunday to Friday morning, basically. And, you know, so trying to stay occupied, trying to not eat like shit when you're on the road seems like the hardest part. You're just eating crap all the time. And that's the hardest part, man. And it seems like this year specifically, nothing lines up. You can't go on a run of races and then run a rainouts. It's like, we'll race a couple, rain a couple, race a couple, rain a couple. And then you get back to the shop and you're going, well, shit, we raced 4 times in the month of April. How did that happen? You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, other than that, it's all been pretty good. And, you know, like I said, I've been touching on this, but I'm surrounded by a great group of guys that's a part of Rudeen Racing. So it's not that bad when you do rain out. It's just kind of sucks when you're, you know, itching to go racing.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about how the Rudeen deal came together. Obviously, it was well documented. You had another deal fall through at the beginning of the year that you were going to be running. How does the Rudeen deal come about? And was it you that reached out to them? Did they reach out to you?
Well, it was. I mean, I kind of reached out to them. Not. I guess I'll tell it. So you know, I raced for Tom Book last year, ran a 13 car. So
Yeah.
At some point throughout the season, you know, you kind of the writing's on the wall. Okay, well, this deal kind of seems like it's, you know, it's run its course. It's time to go, you know, kind of just feel your options out, see what's going on. You know, you know, kind of got in touch with the team, and you know, kind of was working on some stuff, and kind of felt like we had a pretty solid deal together. And we go into the final weekend of high limit stuff, which was down at Texas Motor Speedway, and the following day we raced on that Saturday, and Sunday was the banquet.
Yeah.
Saturday, you know, I talked to the crew chief of that deal, and it was kind of sounding like, well, hey, you know, you might want to get a hold of the owner, talk to him. Okay, well, I'll get a hold of him, you know, and we go Sunday, didn't talk to him, didn't hear from him. Monday rolls around, heard from him, and he didn't tell me what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah.
It was like, hey man, our deal, it doesn't sound like it's gonna, we're gonna be able to work together, blah blah blah. And, all right, so I get this phone call. It's like 11. I'm just leaving the hotel in Texas. I've got a whole 12-hour drive back to Indiana. Man, that whole 12 hours, it's like phone call after phone call after phone call after phone call. My old lady's sleeping next to me, and I keep waking her up because I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? I got to figure something out here.
Yeah.
And I ended up texting Tyler, who is my crew chief on the Redeem deal. Hey, man, I just kind of told him what happened. Hey, thought I had something lined up, fell through. Just wondering, if you guys were going to make a change or what you guys were doing next year. And he ended up calling me, and, we had a good conversation. And he goes, well, let me talk to Kevin, see what's going on. Let me find out. And about 20 minutes later, he texted me and said, hey, you coming to Trophy Cup this weekend? I said, yeah, I'll be at Tulare. He goes, okay, well, we're gonna go meet with Kevin on Saturday. And had a good meeting with the Redeem Racing guys. I mean, John Hager was there, and Kevin Redeem was there, and me and Tyler were there, and just talked about what each other was looking for, kind of what our goals were, what we were kind of all wanting to accomplish, individually, separately, right?
Yeah.
Like them as a team, me as a driver, and everything pretty much lined up. And a couple days go by, and Kevin calls me and says, hey, you're in, man. Let's figure this out. Let's go to Charlotte. And and I went and had 2 podium runs at Charlotte, and then a 10th place run the third night, and the rest is history, man. I've been with him ever since.
It's awesome that it was able to work itself out. I mean, I can't imagine what that side of the racing industry is like, and I think it's something that doesn't get talked about, right? We're all, or most of us, are sports fans, right? We're familiar with what free agency is like in hockey or in basketball or in the MLB or whatever, but in terms of race car silly season, especially at the sprint car levels of High Limit, World of Outlaws, it's got to be so nerve-wracking, and it's so much on you to do the work to find that ride sometimes, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because it's kind of a tricky slope, right? Like, you can't, there's like I don't know how to exactly describe it. There's kind of like an etiquette that goes into it, but then at times there's zero etiquette. Like, right? Like, it's totally, at times, sometimes it just, and I think it just depends at who you're dealing with, right? Like who the driver is going to seek out a team, or who the team is going to seek out a driver. Like, sometimes, it's pretty damn unprofessional. But then there's also a lot of times, most of the time, it is super professional, and there's very like a course that gets run, right? Like, like I was fortunate enough, like I got with Tom Book, after Paul McMahon had been in the car, and everything was going great for 2 years. And then, the third year, things went okay. We were really fast. We had a lot of good runs. We had some wins, but we weren't as strong, right? Like, we weren't as consistently as good. We didn't win as many races, right? So then you're thinking, okay, well, that's fine. We had a bad year, and then we go into 24, and it's basically more or less the same thing. Like, you're not nearly as consistent. You're not nearly as fast as you want to be. You only win one race. It's like, okay, well, now you kind of see the writing on the wall, right? Like, we're going to have to make a change because, especially for Tom, like, Tom's spending all his money. He wants to go win. He's expecting these results. We're not getting these results. And I'm the same way as a driver, right? Like, the more races I win, the more money I'm going to make, right? And the more, like, that's what we do this for, is to win races. So in my mind, I'm looking for an opportunity to go win more races, and, something that I feel like I can grow with and be a part of, like I did with Tom. And it's just, at some point, you just kind of have to make that decision. Like, okay, it is what it is. I'm going to go move on. And the problem with that is that there's 50 other drivers calling the same car as you're calling, wanting to get in the seat. So it's kind of one of those things that's based off results. It's kind of like the squeaky wheel gets the grease also at the same time. Like, if you can build a relationship with guys, or like you already know some people, that's generally how it works. And the longer you do it, the better you get at it. But it's really odd because, like, it's not like going to get a job, whatever it is, being the head chef at a restaurant, or being a fireman, or being a cop, or whatever, it's completely different. There's no like right course of action, right? Each deal you do is going to be a completely different way of going about it. So it does make it tough in that aspect. But at least for me, like, I've done it a long enough time now. I kind of know how to handle the situation, right? And then you have sponsors too, right? So that's the other hard part about it, is like, I might call you and want to drive your race car, but at the end of the day, you have guys that fund you, and I have, maybe I have a guy that funds me, right? Maybe I have sponsors that need to come along, and that's kind of where things start to get tricky because, just say you're sponsored by Jonathan's Plumbing, well, I got to talk to you, and then I got to talk to Jonathan's Plumbing, and then you guys got to talk to my guy, and I got to talk to my guy, and then that's
Yeah.
kind of where things get tricky, and that's kind of where I come from when I say some deals are really professional, and some deals aren't. Some deals are, okay, we're all going to talk about this together, and all get on the same page, and some deals are kind of tough because like you call your sponsor, and it's like, well, the car owner said one thing, and then you call the car owner, and he's saying something
Yeah.
different, and then you gotta figure out like how to handle the whole situation. So it is
Yeah.
tricky, but at least in the sprint car deal, it's pretty straightforward for the most part. As far as hey, I want you to drive a race car. Okay, cool. I want to drive your race car. All right, I'll pay you
Yeah.
X number of dollars. You bring, our sponsors work this way. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting dynamic on how the motorsports world works as far as sometimes it is very professional, sometimes it's a handshake and bring your seat. So I definitely see a lot of that throughout the industry. But I want to talk about your most recent win at Ransomville Speedway, obviously up here in New York State, just over the border from us here in Canada. But what was it like getting back to New York, racing in the New York tracks? Obviously, New York tracks notoriously very slick, top to bottom. Lots of racing room stuff like that. But what was it like to win at Ransomville?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was pretty cool. It was. I think it was pretty special for me and Alex, just because like she's from up there in New York, and like her
Yeah.
her mom and dad were there, so that was cool. That was the first time they got to see me win, and in person at least, and so that was a lot of fun. And for whatever reason, it seems like the fans in New York really show out when we go up there. Man, it's like we pack the stands, and it's just it's good vibes, it's good atmosphere, and yeah, it's really cool. It's unfortunate that Utica rained out because
Yeah.
I really like Utica Rome, and
Mm-hmm.
I'd only been to Ransomville one time, and in the heat race, I blew a tire going into turn one and wadded my car up. So it was good to get a little bit of revenge, a little bit of redemption on that place. So it's cool, man. I like going to all those racetracks in New York. Kind of like you said, it's a little bit different style. I mean, it's super technical up there,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I'm on the gas, but slightly technical at the same time. So it just kind of suits my style.
Yeah, and it's you mentioned redemption against the track itself, but what about the redemption of that whole entire kind of stretch of races where you have one stolen away from you late, and then I think it was in your victory lane speech you talked about the fact you couldn't even get it back out the next night because of a rainout, and try to avenge that loss that night. You had to wait a few days before you could get to Ransomville and get that win.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely felt good. I definitely wasn't going to lose that race. I'd lost a Kokomo, and it was one of them deals. I'm in the dash. I'm like, okay, we're starting whatever it was, fifth in the dash. You end up running fourth. Like, okay, cool. I got a shot at this. I'm gonna root my way through this thing. And
Mm-hmm.
track didn't exactly go the way I thought it was going to go. I kind of thought it was going to clean up around the middle top, like where everybody was kind of running. And it did the exact opposite. It cleaned up on the bottom, and the top got so dirty that we all were kind of forced down. And once I realized that, I'm going, okay, cool. We're using the bumper here. We're wearing out this nose wing, and we're going to get to the front. Luckily, I didn't exactly have to do it that way, but as it was good, man. I was definitely going to make a couple moves there to try and win that one.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about, you up until now you have never run a Ford platform of motor. What's your thoughts on the 410 Ford sprint car motor program? What is there any big differences you've seen besides what you've raced before? What's the development process been like working with Ford? Just if you can speak on that a little bit, and what your thoughts are.
Yeah, like so as far as like the differences and stuff, I mean, every outside of the Roth team that runs the Toyota, and outside of the Redeem team now that runs the Ford,
Mm-hmm.
everybody else is on the Chevy stuff. So, and truthfully, to be honest, I can't speak on the Toyota stuff because I haven't run it. But between Ford and Chevy, there's really not that much difference. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a sprint car engine. It still makes a shit ton, way too much horsepower. It goes way too fast. It screams way too loud. And I mean, truthfully, the Ford stuff runs really good. I think the thing that Ford has on Chevy right now is the controllability of the throttle. You're not necessarily always having to blow the tires off the thing
Mm-hmm.
to make some speed, to make some like ground speed as we call it. And I think the one thing that we're trying to develop right now is kind of almost taking some of that away. Like we have a really good short track program, and what we need to work on is our half mile stuff. Basically a qualifying package. We need that power to qualify. The shit part about that is then you take all that power away, so you can go race and be maneuverable and run through the slick. The couple races that we ran with our quote unquote big track package was really good, and we went on a string of podiums there. And then we went to Ransomville with a short track engine and ended up winning at Ransomville with the short track engine. So they both run really good. I think just for us right now, it's just kind of building the inventory up, working with Ford and just producing more of, this option versus that option. And, at least with Ron Shaver being a part of it, he's kind of his knowledge being brought to the table has helped a lot with that, because I can speak on some things and say, hey, I really need this. I need an engine that can do this, or I need this engine to do this better, right? And he's knowledgeable enough that he can kind of relay what I'm saying and translate it into actually making the engine do that kind of stuff. And working with the Ford team has been cool too. It's a little different for me to have a call on every Monday, to talk to all these guys and say, hey, here's how the weekend went. Here's what happened. Can we do this? Can we do that? And then them say from, an engineering standpoint, well, here's this and here's that. So it's been different, but, I like it so far. And, the Redeem team is committed to, to getting the Ford program where it needs to be. And Ford's committed to us to get us kind of where we think it should be. And, I'm looking forward to how the rest of the year goes with that.
Yeah, and there's something interesting happening, I think, in the world of sprint car racing in general. You've got these multinational, these corporations getting their hands in with these engine programs, but now you almost need all these different manufacturers to step up because you have two major 410 series with the high limits, with the Outlaws. Obviously, you're a high limit guy right now. You mentioned earlier in the show that kind of, the dream growing up was to be an outlaw guy. So just talk to us about the differences that you've experienced in the two series and what you're enjoying right now with the high limits, especially.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? Because, at least growing up, I mean, it was basically just the Outlaws, right? Like everyone wanted to go chase the World of Outlaws. And, to me, the World of Outlaws, they're still the World of Outlaws. I mean, they're still, they've been around forever, right? Like they've been the top dog for however long. But now you have High Limit for the last year and this year so far that comes in and kind of pushes that issue as another top touring 410 wing sprint car series, and as far as talent goes, I mean, we're kind of split 50-50. I mean, we have, half of the best guys with us, half of the best guys are with them. And then it's also tough to look because then you have, some of the best guys are in Pennsylvania. Well, some of the best guys are in California. And I think that's kind of what High Limit does really well is they kind of, play with that, right? Like they love the fact that they're the villain almost. They love the fact that they're the competitor. They're coming in kind of ruffling some feathers. And at least for us, like we get the opportunity to go race for more money with the High Limit stuff. Now, you don't necessarily race as much, but you race for a little bit more bigger purses here. The vision that they have is growing the point fund money, growing the sport. And then not to mention, we still get to go race all the big outlaw shows. Like we have the time off, we have our 50-some, 60-some race schedule, but we still get to go run all the crown jewels the Outlaws have. Well, those guys can't come run with us. And that's what I like about it. We can race for big money on our own time. We can race for big money on High Limit time.
Nice. So speaking of crown jewels, what are some of the crown jewels that you got your eye on? Like, I really want to knock one of these off. What's your holy grail?
I mean, for me, it would be Kings Royal, Knoxville Nationals, National Open. Like that to me, those are the three true crown jewels of sprint car racing. And now and again, I say now because this is all happening within the last handful of years. But like you have Houston High Bank Nationals that pays $250. You got Skagit Dirt Cup that pays $100. You got like just this past weekend we raced at Port Royal for $100. We're gonna go run Gold Cup for $100,000 over at Chico. Like there's a lot of really good racing. Ironman 55's in there. You have a lot of cool stuff. But I think the biggest one I have my eye on, like that I see in the near future, is Kings Royal. I love Eldora Speedway. To me, that is my favorite crown jewel is Kings Royal. But the biggest race in sprint car race is Knoxville National. So that would be the number one that you want to win. Personally, the number one I want to win is Kings Royal.
Fair enough, man. I mean, Can't really go wrong if you're finding yourself at the top of the charts for any of those ones. I think it's definitely doable the way things are going with your team right now. Just overall, talk to us about that confidence level that you have in the team. You obviously have got a great relationship going with your crew chief and with your crew in general. But in terms of your entire career, this has to be an all-time high in terms of the track and the program and everything coming together the right way.
Yeah. It's weird because it's a lot tougher now than it was at one time. Like, I'd say the highest I'd ever been on confidence was in 2022. I was still driving for Book. We cracked off, I don't know, 9 or 10 wins that year. And, we're in the hunt to win a lot. Like, I think that year we had like 20 freaking second place finishes, but we also had to back that up. We had 9 or 10 wins or whatever it was. But, now I think my confidence in myself is higher. So that's the thing that's different. Like, then it was just confidence and we had consistency in the race car. Every time I showed up, like my car was within a box, and I knew it was going to, I knew the tendencies of how I needed to drive it. And if I did this, like, car was going to do that. And that's a lot where I'm at now with the Rodin deal. But the difference is the confidence in myself is higher. Now, on the flip side, the competition's a little stiffer at this point in time. So it kind of goes 50-50. But, yeah, I'd say 100% when we show up to the track, I feel like we got a shot at winning no matter where it's at. So that's always a good feeling. And truthfully, when you don't have that confidence, is when shit starts to go wrong. But it's just part of working together, it's part of believing in each other. And right now, with our 3 full-time crew guys and then myself, we kind of have a pretty good mutual respect going and a pretty good understanding of where our program's at.
So, having raced for a couple different teams, talk about the driver crew chief dynamic and how important it is for you guys to have a good relationship and be on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have an understanding with each other, right? Like, you kind of, and the hard part to that is, right, like, each driver's different, each crew chief's different. We all have different personalities. So it's just kind of getting those things to kind of line up. And then on top of that, you kind of have to have thick skin too, right? Because we're all here working. We're all here working for the same goal. We're here to win. And if I see something wrong with the race car, or I feel something wrong with the race car, I have to be able to say that to you without you getting upset with me. And then there's also a vice versa to that. Like, if I screw up and I should have been doing this on the racetrack, or I made the same mistake multiple times or whatever it is, you have to be able to say that to me without me taking it personally and getting irritated. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to be better. We're all just trying to get faster, and we're all just trying to win. So if you can get 2 guys on the same page that believe in that and have one vision, that's usually where you find the most success.
Awesome. Beef, I think it's time we hit the follower questions. You put this out earlier on the Instagram. We do this every week for every guest. So if you're listening to the show and you want to ask a question to a sprint car driver or anybody sprint car adjacent or dirt racing in general, make sure you're following us and get your questions in. Beef, what do you got from the DMs this week?
We got a couple in here. First one's coming from Rowdy G14. Says, why does he think he's performing better this season compared to last season?
Well, first off, the wins, right? Like, I only got 1 win last year. I've got 4 now. And they've all come with, well, and I shouldn't say that. I won twice last year. I shouldn't say that. I forgot I won at the end of the year. But, this year I've won those races with the same team, right? Like, I have a lot more consistency, I feel like. I feel like there's a little bit more camaraderie going on, just as a whole, with everybody that's within our team. And I just feel like we're more prepared. I feel like this year, personally, I'm more prepared, but then on top of that, I feel like on the flip side, our race team's a little bit more prepared to handle the challenges that are in front of us. So, outside of that, I think the consistency level is a little bit better so far. At least, if you looked at the beginning of the year last year to this point in the season, we're definitely, our average finishes are better. Our money earns probably better. Our qualifying positions are better. So, truthfully, just everything seems to be clicking right now.
So the next one's from somebody that I think you know pretty well. Her name's Alex.
Oh.
So her question is, does he have the best girlfriend in the world?
Should I open the door and tell her yes? Or should I just say yes on here?
Hey, you tread the way you want to tread, bud.
I'll tell you what, she's pretty dedicated. She's pretty dedicated to traveling around the country and slinging merch for me and doing what I need, doing what I ask of her for my career. So I'd have to say yeah in that aspect.
That's a good answer. So next one comes from California sprint car racer, actually Colby Thornhill. It says, ask him about the fish finder and his thoughts on Chaz.
You know, it's funny because, man, back in the day when I got in trouble with the World of Outlaws and stuff, Chaz had my back, but sometimes I don't know if he has my back or if he's just looking for a dumb answer. But I have no problem with Chaz, man. You gotta have guys with contrast, man, and he contrasts from most of the media people. So yeah, I think I don't have a problem with him. I like Chaz. You know, he don't bother me at all. He's pretty damn funny. I ain't gonna lie. I listen to some of his stuff, and it's usually pretty funny. And the fish finder thing was kind of dumb. I don't even know if that actually works. I've always heard that about racing, and then like someone will have an engine issue and they'll be like, "Oh, they had to change engines because the fish finder screwed their engine up." And I'm like, I don't even know if that really works. Like, I don't.
Yeah, I know. The best was he came up to Oswego and he did a whole video on his way up here, his drive up and going over the board and everything. And he did, I don't know if you saw it, but he did helmet tech on David's helmet in the trailer. Oh my god, it's fucking hilarious. He's like over there measuring shit, looking at stuff. He's like, it was just too funny. But last question comes from another California guy, Michael Pombo. Says, can he load the trailer with bush apple and deliver it to Gold Cup for me?
I've heard that a couple times this weekend. Just at Port Royal, guys were saying something about bush apple, and I'm not even a fan of it, man. But hey, I'll tell you what, if you get in contact with me, we'll work out a deal, man. I'll bring you whatever you want. I'll bring you some bush apple. I'll bring you some crown blackberry, whatever you need.
There you go.
Nice. I love it. Last one here from me, and it's what's the event that you haven't got to yet? We talked about the stuff that you haven't had a chance to maybe scratch off the bucket list in terms of winning, but is there a racing event that is you can pick either in the dirt world or even beyond the dirt world even? Is there an event that you haven't got to yet that you want to make sure that you're in attendance for sometime?
You know, and I hate to say this because I'm from Indianapolis, I've never been to the Indy 500.
But hey, you know what? It's hard when you're racing, man. May is a busy month for racing.
I was saying that, like, literally, we're standing, and this is the funny part about this. So I'm standing in the trailer, you know, with some other race teams, right? Like, we got the Indy 500 on in our trailer, and you know, we're watching it, and I'm telling them, I'm like, you know, I feel bad because I've never been to Indy, and they're like, how have you never been to the 500? I'm like, well, I'm standing here watching it with you. What do you mean? How have I never been there? Like, this is why I've never been.
Yeah,
but, you know, that would be the first one just because it's close to home. But I really want to go to Monaco. I think the Monaco Grand Prix would just be badass to go to. I don't know if I'm in the right tax bracket to be able to go there, but one day I'll make it happen.
Nice.
I was there on a not race weekend. Like I was probably there 3 or 4 weeks before the actual event. I think it was like a classic car or something or other going on in a high school trip. And it is, even if you're there when the F1 cars aren't racing, just to be able to like stand on the street corners and see the red and white stripes of the curb because they're there the whole time all year round. It's a pretty surreal place, and definitely one that's, if you can get into that tax bracket, hey, maybe you win one of those $1 million purses and you can go get yourself a trip to Monaco.
Hey, I'll tell you what, it's possible, man. If we can get Smoke to bring that race back, I think that'd be pretty badass. I think we'd be a contender.
So we always like to end on talking some non-racing. Before we got on, actually, we were talking a little bit about golf. But what's your interest outside racing? Obviously golf, but do you have anything else that you like to do?
I mean, as far as like hobbies and stuff go, golf, fishing, those would be my big ones. I like cooking too. I think I'm kind of like a foodie, I guess. I don't really know how you say that, but I like making different shit. I think if I wasn't racing, I'd probably try to be like a fireman or like open a food truck or something. But that would probably be the biggest ones: golf, fishing, cooking.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
Personally, my favorite thing to cook and eat would be, I really like just cooking a good steak. Like if you can, different ways, right? Like sometimes you reverse sear it, sometimes you put it on a grill, sometimes, you know, whatever it goes. But I think if you ask anybody that eats my food, I think they usually like my homemade Alfredo.
Wow.
Nice. All right. Well, I know what's on the menu next time we catch you guys at a racetrack. I don't know if you can set that up in the trailer in the travel at any point, but hey, you might have to.
Hey, we might be able to make it happen. You never know. Bring a little hot pot or something. Will be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you get the people to buy the T-shirts. You get a little side of the Alfredo with the T-shirt.
That's why you should jar your own Alfredo sauce and sell it out of the T-shirt trailer.
I should, man. I got to figure out a way to preserve it. I could probably do that.
Yeah, that'd be
there
cool.
you go.
Well, thanks, Justin. Thanks for coming on, man. It was an awesome interview, and we wish you nothing but luck in the 2025 season. And we'll be keeping tabs on you, and hopefully you can crack off a couple more wins and maybe fight up front for a championship.
Yeah, appreciate it, boys. I'll see you guys in Victory Lane.
Absolutely.